Hey Sam. Hey Jim. Hey Samuel. So feel free to talk about whatever you want to today. This stream is sponsored by Monster. It's not really. Fully Vaxxed and Jazzed. Is that a recent thing, Jim? For some reason I have you as someone from the UK, but it could equally not be the case. It's refreshing. I am only joking, it's not really. Anyway, so yeah, anything anyone wants to talk about, we can talk. How's the week off the crack going? So Joel asks, it's going okay. I'm using a Podgo right now. It has been quite a cool week for the Fractal FM3, which is nice. Oh, Glasgow. Okay, awesome. Does it annoy you as much as me when people call it Glasgow from America? But yeah, it's also been a little bit of a struggle this week for views. That's why I've had to do some more streams and stuff. I guess people are interested to see me doing stuff with the Helix, maybe, or maybe they're just bored of my channel anyway. But yeah, it's been fun to do some more stuff with the FM3. Normally for this stream I'd be using the Helix and the microphone, but today I'm using the Podgo just because I'm not allowed to use the Helix. I've not uploaded my Podgo patches. How do you mean? Now the big views, there's not really anything on my channel that gets big views. But I think when there's something like a launch, those generally do okay. Which Podgo patches are you looking for, by the way, Joaquin? Because there are lots of them that are uploaded. How does the Helix reverbs compare to the Fractal ones? So this is like not necessarily a thing that's well known, but the people that develop for Helix, for Line 6, have actually worked on lexicon algorithms and Digitech. So I think they compare very favourably. The other thing is that the legacy reverbs were programmed by the guy who started Meris, and I think they're fairly well regarded as well. So I think they're actually really cool, those reverbs. That's a wah pedal for. However, I also do obviously love the fractal reverbs, particularly the new Operon is cool, and I really like the cloud reverbs. The Helix reverbs are pretty versatile, I find, but I wouldn't say I necessarily love some of the stock settings. So for me, some of the things need cancelled all shipments to Australia. Is that a recent thing, Michael? Why just Australia though? Hey John. So I think, yeah, those are the two big modelers for me that I feel like I could do without the Helix if I only had fractal stuff, or I could do without the fractal stuff if I had a Helix. But without either of those two players, I don't think I'd necessarily find too much to get inspired by. Maybe the Kemper's pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of my feeling on that stuff. I've not read the book The Birth of Loud. So, Jim, have you heard about the new SVT plugin? So basically, Line 6, this is kind of known, worked on the new Ampeg SVT plugin, which is like a new product for Ampeg, and that's kind of new modeling and new IRs and stuff, that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the closest thing I think that we've got out there to like new Helixy stuff at the moment, except for obviously the reverbs and stuff, but that's quite cool. The EVH3, is that not just basically a 5150 anyway? I don't know, how much did they change those things? And I find most of them, like the Friedman BE has kind of most of the switches that are on the real amp, right? I think it's the one that's most glaring to me that doesn't have all of the switches is the Mark IV, because there's obviously pull brights and pull deep and shift things and all that sort of stuff on a Mark amp, and those aren't there. But I'm not too familiar with an EVH or. Hey George. So, BB said about this, these new Friedmans. What are the new Friedmans? Because I swear there was always loads of Friedmans. Hey Michael, I guess you might find something on the used market. You know, you can pick up Kempers quite a lot of the time now. I imagine as the QC kind of becomes, well, if it does become more available, I guess is more the thing. might find some FM3s like reused on the used market and stuff. So that might be a good way to. Although I don't know if there's many in Australia. Eric, no, I have a. No, I can't really answer that. Hey Jim. I don't think line 6 is so much going down the route of more power. I feel like because of you see like the HX Stomp, the HX Effects and the HX Stomp XL, I feel like they're using some of those kind of chips up and stuff, and maybe if we're going to get a newer modeler, whenever that might be, I've got no idea about any of this, obviously this is just speculation. Yeah, I feel like it would just be a new thing rather than like a Helix XL or whatever. I think that would be more likely, but I don't know. I've not heard Julian Large's new tune, no. How's the back? John asks. It's good. The regime of loads and loads of walking and lots of standing seems to be good for it. So the tune I've been working on this week, so this is a JC Freeze Jazz preset, by the way, for the Podgo. If you are a Podgo person, you could feel free to grab that in the description. I'll drop it into the folder. Yeah, I would be interested to know if other people feel like me. So I'm one of the people who probably doesn't want a touchscreen on my devices. So I've had a Headrush, and that's obviously touchscreen, and that's what, from about 2016-17. I'm not sure I particularly get on with it. The Quad Cortex is obviously touchscreen, and that's quite a big part of that interface. But I feel like, for me, I prefer kind of not to have a touchscreen. I find the scribble strips and that kind of stuff more useful for me. Other than my own, who has my favourite tone. I think Eric Johnson's tone on Venus Isle is incredible. Jonathan Kreisberg has an amazing jazz tone. Those two, tone-wise. But I think a lot of Jonathan Kreisberg's tone just comes from having amazing picking technique and touch. But yeah, I love his touch and technique. Alan Holdsworth, unique and kind of, although quite similar to Eric Johnson in a lot of ways. Andy Timmons does have great tone. Probably like my favourite humbucking tone might be Andy Timmons. Yeah, so this seems to be like the weird dichotomy. So in a way, I think a lot of people, so like I speak to David Beebe and Sam and these chaps, and some of you folks, like a lot of you guys and a lot of the Fractal guys edit on a PC anyway. So like the touchscreen just is totally irrelevant if you're editing on a PC most of the time. Alan Hines, yeah, incredible. So to me, like, it seems like the touchscreen doesn't necessarily matter for a huge chunk of people who are potentially would much rather just use a mouse and keyboard and all that sort of stuff and plug it in. And so also there seems to be like a few folks that don't really even like to edit on the device and want to avoid that at all kind of costs. And so in that case, when you get down on the stage, whether it's touchscreen or not, it doesn't really seem to make much difference to me either. I think like I was talking about the Axe 8 the other day, having some of those amp parameters just on the screen and physical knobs seems way more useful to me than a touchscreen for an actual gig. But that could just be me. Talking about picking technique, are you particular about the way you hold the pick? You were listening to Tone Quayle talk about that recently and holding it higher up the knuckle joint. So Tom Quayle doesn't pick, that's the issue with Tom, innit? No, so he was talking about, and he put up an Instagram post, didn't he? And I think he was talking about, he found that it also changed his mindset a little bit, and it stopped him playing lazily. For me personally, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I sort of hold a pick like that. Just dropped it. Brilliant. So sort of like this. Or sometimes a bit like that. But kind of like if you imagine you're writing with a pencil is how I think about my picking hand, and then this sort of makes some contact with scratch plate or a guitar a lot of the time. Yeah, that's a cool thing. The performance pages on the FM3, that's a new thing. It sort of gets you close to where things are with the Axe 8 generally, right? Sort of. How many buttons and stuff does the stage have compared to the normal Kemper? So yeah, that's how I pick. I do feel like the picking as a rule kind of for jazz seems to be the way to go for a lot of stuff. You're having joint pain, is it specifically, so you're anchoring sort of in that Steve Morse kind of way, maybe? Hey Wayne, I still need to hook you up. I've done a Princeton kind of jazz tone with the FM3. Hey Tom, hey Marley. Anyone who hasn't liked and subscribed yet, I'm not going to go on about it too much, but if you did want to do that, I think it kind of helps the channel in some way, and it might help other people find it if they want to, and it would be a favour to me in some way. Yeah, so that's a good point about the Steve Morse thing or the Troy Grady thing and all of this stuff. So I think there's been a lot of, Troy Grady is responsible for most of it. Talk about pick slanting. I don't know that anyone really thought about that before Troy Grady was around. So I think it might be a shortcut to learn some of the habits that people pick up or use or employ or whatever. But it's not something that I ever really consciously thought about. Not that I have incredible picking or anything, I'm just saying. Because it just wasn't around when I was working extensively on picking stuff. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff in the Troy Grady stuff if you're into picking, for sure. I guess that's kind of the go-to place for all things picking as much as anywhere else. So Christopher, I actually traded the GT1000 core. What's the United Stand? So yeah, the GT1000 core I traded for the what's it called? Empress Zoya. Heard Chet Baker's version yet, so the only version that I've listened to so far, so if you're saying I should listen to Chet, obviously I should, is Wayne's, the guy who wrote it. It's proven to be a little bit tricky. I'm going to put up a harmonic analysis video of it later as well as some takes. So yeah, I'll try and give it like a little play. Trains, what is that a word that should have been something else? Hey Jim, how you doing, buddy? So most of my interval playing comes from like either ideas that I like the sound of, so 6. So you could practice that kind of stuff or moving around. But yeah, also the ideas come from kind of chord shapes as well. Oh, triads was maybe what you meant. But there's no sort of like conscious strategy for it. It's just things that I have found I like the sound of more than anything else. So things like this. Hey Jeremiah. So this would be like an arpeggio that's made up of intervals. So yeah, that kind of stuff. Oh right, it's headphones, Tim. Hey Donald. Yeah, so that's kind of the little chord melody thing that I've been working on, and I've put together a few takes today. Jeremiah, if it sounds to me like you haven't updated your Podgo edit, so I would update that first. Me and Aunt Law, we have an issue. We've fallen out in a big way. Yeah, so Sasha, I found out today that the ES175 was discontinued in 2019, which is just terrible news, and I don't understand, because it's, to me, like the clear, my favourite design for sure that Gibson have come up with. What's the jazz standard I'm working on today, Jonathan? It is Wayne Shorter's House of Jade. When doing legato, how hard or light is the left hand? Can you get the same effect on an acoustic, or do you need the gain, etc.? So if you hear the tone that I'm using now, it depends in a way, but so some of the legato stuff I could probably do, but some of it would not really work. But yeah, in theory, some of it should work on an acoustic. Maybe things like pull-offs at the moment wouldn't be. But what I'm thinking of working on is, or I'm trying to do a bit of this every day, is kind of playing legato with just the left hand only. And then that way you're not relying too much on the momentum stuff, and it's kind of hopefully going to strengthen up the left hand a little bit. Obviously it doesn't sound particularly good at the moment. I connect it to my studio speakers, which are just JBL LSR 305s. But in theory, certainly most of my hammer-on stuff would work on an acoustic. Nelson, I did a Pliny clean, which will probably work nicely for the prog stuff. But I'm also super interested in trying to improve my picking for the JBL LSR 305s. They're relatively cheap studio monitors, but they do the job. In improving kind of my picking in terms of jazz. Hey Jason. There you go, that's a chord for you. Horrible. Right, so yeah, I'll try and do this a bit more, but keep any questions about anything else coming. I've got a backing track that I can try the track with if anyone cares. Yeah, but that first major 7 seems like a bit of an odd tritone sub, right? JBL LSR 305. I'm mostly alternate picking sometimes. Christopher, the Cutlass HSS is like a sort of Strat-ish, isn't it? What sort of stuff do you play, Christopher? It's like a minor 251, but that first one is, I'll do a talk about it later on in the actual lesson, but it's House of Jade. Or do you mean tone-wise, what am I playing? Yeah, but that was kind of what I was thinking about playing for most of it, Joel, is kind of just dealing with it like a blues. The right-hand stuff as well, I found like the hybrid picking is... Oh, I'm using Princeton right now. It's a nice feeling, Jason, but I did not take lessons from Tom Quayle, no, because he lives up in Leeds, and I don't think he really teaches much anymore. Plus, he probably wouldn't teach me anyway. Right, I'll have a go at the tune, so forgive me if this is shite. What do I think is the new modern guitar language? The Hendrix box lick. What is the Hendrix box lick? That thing. Christopher, just tell me what you're into and I can maybe try and make a recommendation. Jack Gardner has had lessons from Tom, I believe, yeah, and I think he does some teaching, doesn't he? Right, let's try. So keep the chat coming if you've got things you want to talk about. Any advice on how to break out the same legato practice? I practice other patterns, but when improvising, the same old ones always come out. That's kind of the point. So I think it might have been Holdsworth maybe, or someone like that talked about there being like a massive latency of maybe like a year between things that you've practiced coming out in your improvisation, and even that would only probably work if you focus on it properly and, you know, regularly do the thing. So that's why I did that little video on the other day about, so my key habit is this, that kind of thing. And I like the idea that that's 8 notes, so I did a video on this. And so I wanted to have other 8-note patterns, these kind of things. That kind of thing, and that kind of works quite well. Yeah, I've seen Robbie Barnaby's channel. It's got some really cool videos. So that's kind of one legato pattern that I'm practicing at the moment, and that's the same sort of thing. Is your focus triad arpeggio based or more modal based? It's kind of more major scale based, so kind of placing something in home is a big part of what I try to do. So let me just try and play House of Jade. Keep the questions coming if you've got them. We talk about whatever, you know, just keep it roughly guitar based, I guess. This might be bad. Okay, that didn't go so bad. Why so many dog? Because my fiance likes dogs. Turns out they're good fun as well. And they're all tiny dogs. So like together they add up to about one dog. So yeah, I thought that tune was kind of simple-ish, but then actually it turns out it's kind of not when you try to play over it. That middle 8 part is kind of fun, but the way that that kind of move is a little bit jarring in some ways, and then this part is also. So I was listening to a little bit of Wayne Shorter and just figuring out what he was doing over some of it. I will go back and listen to some Chet Baker like Joel suggested, because he normally does cool things. Is it a pain going on holiday with all those dogs? Between you and me, don't tell anyone else, but I don't like going on holiday anyway. As you can probably tell, I like being at home playing guitar. But no, we just find places nearby that are good for dogs, and we've got a few places that we sorry, let me just scroll back up and see if there was questions that I've missed. So Nelson was talking about subdivisions and stuff. I've not been to the Ugg boots. Pedals that you like to use to get that kind of overdrive tone that I use, not really. The Dude can do that sort of thing. Sasha said about the latency for integrating what you practice. So there are some things that can come straight through, like depending on how much you try to shoehorn it in, if that makes sense. So, you know, if I got a lick, if you had a specific lick that you were working in, you could kind of have places where you wanted to do that over and over, if that makes sense. So you could just kind of plan that out, and in that way you can sort of accelerate it getting into your vocab or whatever. So, but you know, yeah, I think the idea is just to try and be patient with it, and sometimes there's things that we practice that may never actually arrive into our playing. There's little bits that I've practiced that I notice, like little have no opinion on that, Donald, because I wasn't aware of it. Sorry. I talk about systematic practice approach to working melodic minor dissonances into melodic lines. Can you word that in a different way so that I understand it? One of the key ways that I try to get the melodic minor sound into my head is by doing stuff over a frozen thing, because obviously normally when we see the melodic minor stuff occurring in a song, it's not necessarily there for very long, so to get used to that altered sound, I might freeze things, and then that's a good way to get a bit more familiar with the stupid wah pedal. Get more used to that sound. And maybe practice patterns. It's a good thing. Altered dominance to spice up diatonic plainness. So I'm quite a plain player, let's be honest. But yeah, I think I'm probably a bad person to ask about that, because what I do is pretty boring harmonically. But this is the stuff that I practice, you know, try and do that kind of thing over a frozen chord. And then things that I think aren't necessarily super obvious that some of the kind of pros are doing is like over tunes like Autumn Leaves. Over most of the kind of 6 minor chords, they all treat that they treat that as like a or over the major 2, they'll also treat that as a harmonic, not a harmonic, a melodic minor kind of. So both the kind of major 2 and the minor 6, if you see those chords in a tune, you can kind of treat them in a way where you can use the melodic minor with those. So I don't know, let me just show you quickly with a so like at the end of Autumn Leaves, that part, so 2, 3, 4. I'll just loop that. So you hear you can use it over that there. Put the camera back on. I don't know, is that the sort of thing you mean? Or is that super basic? Yeah, so I don't know if that's the sort of thing you mean, but like, yeah, so if you see a major 2, so if you're in G major and you see an A major 7, sometimes you can use a melodic minor there, like a relative melodic minor. In terms of scales that are stretched out, do you mean kind of 3-note per string stuff. Because I don't particularly have big hands, but if you watch someone like Robin Ford, a lot of his playing is really close together, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing at all to not have the if you can't do like massive stretches, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So maybe look at someone like Robin Ford and look at some of his lines, because I think he's got a really pretty way of doing stuff, you know, and I find it a bit difficult to do the stuff without stretches, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think if you're finding that your hand doesn't particularly want to do the dexterity, like long stretches, like some people, maybe don't try and force it, just work on it gradually. When do I plan to purchase some Crocs? I don't, I leave that to Andy Wood. Some melodic minor exercises, so that'd be my main kind of thing, would be to kind of get familiar with what's that one? Some that kind of thing. So that kind of thing. Also just find little bits of melody. So what I'm actually doing, that kind of thing. You know, things that just spend time with it, and yeah, like I say, I have stretchy hands, so like I can span them out. Nathaniel was just insisting on speaking entirely the wrong language, which is cool. Anyone speak Spanish? I imagine it's something about penises. And then the normal things that you might have tried, things like sequences. This kind of thing. Yeah, so it's basically Spanish. I actually do speak Spanish, I just don't like the way I sound when I speak it. of thing. And also, I've talked about this a bit, but find the things that you already know in the melodic minor scale. So, for instance, there'll be things that you already know. Like major arpeggios and stuff will be in there. So there's an F major arpeggio in the middle of this C melodic minor, or B altered. So you could target that. I definitely wouldn't advise you not to get an FM3. I think they're really cool. Some sweep arpeggios. Yeah, you could also find some. Just change clicks and see if I can actually sweep still. That was awful. Yeah, so just find the familiar in what you're doing, if that makes sense. So if you're in C melodic minor, for instance, you can figure out that you've got an F major triad and a G major triad, and you could just use those kind of triad pair ideas. I used to do like that kind of thing. First influences with Thin Lizzy, then like Iron Maiden, Dream Theater. If you haven't liked the stream or whatever this is and subscribed to the channel, maybe I'd ask you to consider doing that. talk about anything in particular. We can go for a bit longer if you want. I'm new here. What camera am I using? I'm using a Sony A7R2, I think. Cheers, double down. It's not really happening today. Still off the Helix at the moment, yeah, but I'm using a Pod Go right now, so that kind of... supposed to be just the Helix and the HX Stomp. The hardest I could pick a string was 10. How heavy would I say I pick? About a 4, unless I've got quite a light touch. I think is something I've decided I prefer the tone of like a lighter picking. I mean, Jason. Yep. Maybe I'll just do a little bit of something with a click. It's not going to work, is it? So Dubman is more really, so this pickup is kind of similar to the sort of thing you get in a Les Paul. So part of what is making this guitar sound like this is the hollow body, you know, it's a big hollow body guitar, so that's definitely important. But another big part of it is having flat wound strings. So you can get close to this kind of tone without it having to be this shape. Comedy heroes, I like Stuart Lee, Anthony Jeselnik. I've just started listening to his podcast. Yeah, there's lots of videos on the channel of preset builds. presets does the Pod Go pack come with? I don't know, it's like 40 or something like that. It's kind of just all of them and then the future ones as well. I've got a couple to add in from today actually. Thing. How do I blend 4 and 5 note runs? Hey Tom, do I? I don't know. What I would do is just, if you're thinking of 5 note things, that kind of thing, do you mean? Just practice trying to play subdivisions. What preset am I using now? JC Freeze Jazz, so I need to add that in. Practice that kind of thing, so you could do groups of 5 and 4s. Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about this kind of thing when it comes to alternate picking. I don't necessarily think that's particularly useful though, but there's a Paul Gilbert thing where he talks about that kind of thing, and you just practice. Practice starting it with an upstroke so you get the inside pick in. Fingertip placement as in with the left hand. If I'm particularly strict about anything, to be honest with you. Some string skipping. It's kind of tricky on this type of guitar. Hey Keith, how you doing? Oh dear. think might be useful if you're interested in string skipping. It's not really working. No. A little bit easier if you just legato that stuff, but see you in a little bit. Double down. Thanks for stopping by. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet. Right. Whoa. So that might be a really good exercise actually. Yeah, my metronome's out of time. Definitely be easier on a Strat redder. You did. Someone requested it. I think Nigel or Dusty Nuts for Sale, I think, requested it. So I did a tiny bit of it in a Quad Cortex video. Yeah, so this is something I need to spend way more time doing, I think, just trying to No, so the way that I found out that I do the legato stuff, Tom and Marley, or Marley, Tom, whatever you're going to call yourself, I'm going to guess Tom, is that I pick in the direction of the string change with economy stuff, not economy, legato. It turns out that I use economy picking for legato, so if you notice there, those are all downstrokes, so they go in the direction of the string change. That was not something I ever practiced, it's just how that has happened. I don't know why that is. That's just what it is. What, so you go you would go upstroke on the way up. I could do both, I guess. But my natural inclination is the economy pick. What was I doing? So you upstroke in both directions. Yeah, so, and Tom goes both ways. Yeah. It's not that weird. I think you'll find Sean Lane basically starts everything with upstrokes. I think Eric Johnson has a tendency for a lot of stuff to do upstrokes. I think this is the thing that Troy Grady kind of has exposed, that there's kind of a million ways to alternate pick or whatever approach that you're taking. You know, you've got like Tom Quayle who has the hybrid thing, and I think that seems to work well for a lot of people. But equally with the jazz stuff, I think alternate picking is super important, or seems to be for a lot of this. The sound that I like. Not that I can do it very well, but the sound that I like is, I think for jazz, I prefer the sound of like an alternate pick line. Personally, anyway. Equally, I do like the sound of kind of less aggressive alternate picking, especially when it comes to like melodic. So, what's your context, Tom? Give me a context for Lydian. So, the way that I think of Lydian is sort of slightly. Not necessarily how everyone else thinks about it, but I just think about it as a frozen chord 4. So like that. Or what I could do is I'll give you a G, and now my job is to kind of make that sound like a few different Lydian things. So we'll start with C Lydian. Then I wanted to make it sound like E flat Lydian. So for me, what I'm doing is thinking about the parent major scale. That's how I work through modes. So it's not necessarily what most people might advise, whatever, but it works for me, I think, okay. So now I'm gonna I don't know. Yeah. Now I'm going to play G Lydian, so that'll be our root note now. I think the thing that works for me best is to not be thinking of G as an important note in G Lydian at all. The notes that are important to me are all of the notes which make it obvious that that is Lydian. So like you say, the sharp 11 be one of those notes. So what I would do if I were you, maybe, so if you're thinking about G Lydian there, try playing arpeggios through D major. Cheers, Keith. Have a good... Those are the things that I find useful. Those are my tips, but I'm not exactly a modal thinker as much as I'm mostly not thinking modes. So treat this as D Lydian without playing D. You don't actually need the D to make it sound like D Lydian, if that makes sense. It wasn't even sounding like D Lydian. Turn it into B flat Lydian. Dog's going mental. So, thank you everyone for joining in with this, whatever this was. Hopefully that was useful in some way to someone. While the dogs are going mental, I better stop. I'll catch you all for another video soon. Let me know if you've got things you want me to do. I'm going to be putting up a video talking about shortly. So if you want to look out for that, you could. That will explain more of what I'm thinking with this particular tune, and the backing track for it and the tab will go up on Patreon for the chord melody if you wanted to learn that. Uh, you're on there with your line. So anyway, hopefully that's useful. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please feel free to do so. You don't have to, but it would help if you did. And yeah, if you've got ideas for stuff you want me to do on the channel, just leave a comment somewhere. So you just think of the parent major scale. That's what I do, but it's not necessarily what everyone does. So if you listen to Jack Gardner and Tom Quayle, they have other approaches for it, which might be more in line with how you think about the instrument. It's just that I'm super kind of parent scale based, from maybe piano and stuff. So that's kind of just my approach. So don't take it as like the only way to think about the stuff. It's definitely not. So yeah. Anyway, cheers all, and catch you in a bit.